Hello， 你哋大家好。今日咧，我哋又嚟到 CARLOS 嘅律師樓去解答你哋嘅問題。咁上一集咧，我哋講關於葡萄牙嘅居留卡嘅費用啦。咁好多嘅觀眾咧都寫咗唔同嘅問題。咁今日咧，我哋嚟解答下大家嘅問題啦。因為我都問大家有冇啲咩問題同可以做 Q&A 喺個 comment below。咁好啦，多謝觀眾俾咗我哋一答嘅問題。Okay, let's begin. So last time we had a lot of viewers asking you in the comment section for some questions they did not understand, and they are very glad that we clarify about the charges and costs. But we have further questions. Okay. So let's begin. A viewer, someone called Claudia, have asked to have residency or to have permanent card. What is the difference in terms of treatment as a citizen?
Okay, I'll try to clarify what questions you have, but some questions I received from the viewers also a little bit complicated. I'll try to clarify. I have to say something first before I answer this question. In Portugal, the term of permanent card is a card that is not valid forever. The term of permanent card is a card that is given after 5 years of legal residence, and the card will be valid for 5 years. So the difference between a normal resident card and the permanent card is the first card are valid for 2 years, and the permanent card, as they say that the name permanent, but is valid for 5 years. It means that after 5 years you have to renew more 5, and every 5 you renew. So the difference is the normal resident card is 2 years, the permanent card is 5 years. This is the main difference of a normal resident card and a permanent card. Okay?
Permanent card is not really permanent residence.
No, it's not for all the time.
Permanent card for 5 years.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It means that the authorities here, the government here, receive information enough that you are a legal resident for a period of time. When you reach 5 years, they say we don't need to double check all the requirements, but you need the new requirements. When you apply first time, you don't need to speak Portuguese, you don't need to have any knowledge. But if you apply for a permanent card, you have to achieve several requirements necessary. You have to achieve the 5 years, you have to have the A2 level certificate of language, and you have to prove that you can support yourself financially.
So basically, if you are on golden visa, you can renew every 2 years and continue renew, but you don't need to pass exam.
That's correct.
But if you
That's why the card is valid only 2 years, 2 years. Once that you reach a level that, okay, I can speak a little Portuguese, I have a certificate to prove it, I can prove that I was legal for the last 5 years without any problem. I can prove that I can support myself without any document of financial. I don't need to submit all these documents. I will be granted if I request a permanent card, a card that will be valid for 5 years.
Okay. So
back to the question. So
permanent. Why is it called permanent if it's only lasting for 5 years?
That's the Portuguese term, right? So we use the permanent card because it's a long-term card for 5 years period instead of a resident card. Actually, both have the same name of resident card, but one is a normal resident card for 2 years, and the second, the different has a mention on the card, permanent card. It means that you already reached the 5 years, it already have fulfilled the requirements that I just spoke about it.
I'm going to speak in Chinese. 佢話永久卡唔係代表永久居民 so it doesn't mean permanent residency.
No.
So if you do not renew, you forfeit your right after 5 years. You cancel your right staying.
Yes, if you don't renew, it will cancel. Yes.
如果你唔重新去循環呢張卡嘅話咧，去做呢一個永久居民永久嘅卡咧，係會取消你一個嘅卡嘅status 嘅。咁就意思上咧係話佢唔係話永久居民咯。I guess this is not a permanent residency.
In Portugal, we don't have a permanent residence. It will last forever.
In UK, permanent residency means the rest of your life.
I understand, but in Portugal and we have another term. You have several types of cards. But for example, we have a card called long-term card. Give you some special rights, like going work abroad or something. But at this moment, what I'd like to explain is that the permanent card in Portugal has a valid period of time of 5 years.
OK， 佢話有另一種卡叫做長久嘅卡，但係咧呢一個永久嘅卡咧只係5年嘅啫，5年每一次都要循環嘅。So, what's the difference between citizenship or a permanent card and in terms of taxes? Is there any changes?
There's no changes at all. And the difference between the cards, if you want to, some people can ask me, what's the difference between a citizenship and permanent card? A permanent card, you always a foreigner with a resident card. The rights are the same. Of course, you have several things you cannot do. You know, with the Portuguese passport, you own the citizenship and you can travel freely. With a resident card, you can't. You can travel with some limitation, but you don't own a Portuguese passport. Okay? The taxation is exactly the same. If you live here, you have the same tax, being a Portuguese or not being a Portuguese.
Okay, 個稅務咧係一模一樣嘅。And you can travel freely with the card in Europe.
You can travel freely in the card in Europe, but you have some situations that you cannot use. For example, you can travel, you cannot leave other countries. Freely, you have to check the law of their countries. They allow you to live there with the Portuguese resident card. With the Portuguese passport, you can live in many countries and you don't need to request any visa to other countries.
Okay, after having the permanent card, after 5 years, how much is the renewal fee?
After 5 years of a permanent card, when you renew, if it's through the golden visa, if it's through the golden visa, we're talking about the golden visa holders.
Right.
It's 3,400 something. It's half of. I can check here. It's half of the 7,455.
即係7400幾嘅一半。
So just the first time.
5年之後再續證嘅話咧，如果你有嗰個永久卡之後嘅5年再續證嘅費用咧，係7400幾嘅一半，咁即係3,700 something。
I can check.
3,700幾。So another question: after citizenship, do you have any requirement for how long you must stay in Portugal?
Once you become a Portuguese citizen, you don't have any requirement to stay in Portugal. You don't need to stay even a single day. You can just go and move to any country you choose, and you don't need to come back to have any permanence here.
如果你成為一個永久如果你攞咗國籍嘅話咧，即係變成一個葡萄牙人嘅國籍嘅咧，你係冇需要有任何要求係要喺葡萄牙住嘅，一日都唔需要。And can we contact you? That's like one other question.
Yes, can.
Through us?
Yes, can contact.
經過我哋啦嚇，如果想揾阿律師先生。Okay, for if this is through the golden visa or the D7 or the work permit after 5 years, these 3 different methods. If I have the permanent card, is it still 7,000 something?
No, through the golden visa, the permanent card is 7,455. If you have permanent card by the general law, D7 or any other card, or work permit, it's about 300 euros at this moment.
暫時嚟講，只係黃金簽證係要7000幾歐元嘅啫，用呢一個永久卡申請呢個永久卡。如果你用其他途徑咧， D7 咧或者係工作簽證嘅居留咧，只需要300幾歐元嘅。
Okay, I can explain a little bit why the difference of huge amount of money for the permanent card. There's no explanation for that, but I can give an explanation. There's nothing written in the law, but it's very simple. If you get the permanent card through a golden visa, it means that for 5 years you don't need to stay in Portugal. You can just need to prove you stay 35 days. But
In that 5 years.
in the 5 years. But it means that you can stay living out of the country, doesn't matter where, without coming to Portugal.
Yeah.
But if you have the permanent card, by the general law, that it will charge you about 300 euros, it means that you don't have that right as a golden visa holder. You have to stay here 3 years in 5.
So even you have the permanent card through D7,
If you
after
have
5
this-
years you still have to live
you
in.
have to live here because that card is for living and stay here. So people say, why I have to pay so much if I can pay less? I can just, but the rights of using the card are different. D7, you have to live here. Golden visa, you don't need to live here.
阿卡洛斯先生嘅詮釋咧，就係意思係佢覺得咧，雖然喺法律上面冇講明啦，但係咧佢覺得咧點解黃金簽證咧係好似收咁多咧？對於呢個永久卡係因為咧你唔需要住喺度，你5年入邊咧只需要喺呢度停留35日嘅啫。但係其他嘅方法咧途徑例如 D7 啦或者係公簽嘅話咧，你係要住喺呢度嘅，你係有義務要住喺呢度嘅，所以咧佢就比較平啲，平好多。Okay, another question. Option B. I don't know you remember we had an option B.
Yeah.
Is that only 5 years?
As I told you before, we have I'm just talking about the golden visa holders. When you reach the 5 year or the 5th year, because now the card is valid every 2 years. So I just imagine I go and get my first card, after 2 years I count and renew, I have more 2 years, and then I renew again and I got the card more 2 years. When I reach the 5th year, even with my card is still valid 1 more year, I have the right, if I want, I said I can apply for permanent card at this moment because my card is still valid for 1 more year, but because I already reached the 5th year, I can say I want to make a permanent card now because my card will be valid for 5 years from now on. Or you can wait for 6 or 7. When you reach 5, you always can choose whatever you want. Get your card until finish and renew normally. You can renew and apply for permanent, or you can renew and apply for citizenship. It's an option that you choose.
Okay.
If you don't want to do anything, just continue to renew every 2 years.
What someone's asking is the 5th year you can apply for citizenship, correct?
Yes, correct.
Why do I still have to have the 3rd card if it's not the 6th year?
When you reach 5 years, when you apply for the citizenship, it's not automatically. You have to submit the documents, and you have to be a legal card holder.
So you still need two.
Yeah, but when you reach 5, before 1 year card finish, you said I complete 5, I can submit my application for the citizenship, and then you have to keep the card in your hand valid until it will be granted. If you don't get granted, for some reason it's not approved. If you quit, then what you have? Nothing. You don't have citizenship, you don't have resident card. You have to restart the process. So you have to keep your resident card valid at all the time until you decide what to do. If you decide I want to apply for the citizenship, and just imagine you apply after 5 years and the process will take 1.5. It means that you have to renew 1 more time.
Okay. 有朋友問咧，點解係5年唔係6年咯？咁即係咪第3張卡係唔需要？第3張卡仍然需要嘅，但係只不過咧，因為你申請第3張卡嘅時候咧，你係可能會等緊。雖然你5年你就可以有權去申請個國籍，但係你仍然要去等移民局㗎嘛。咁你喺葡萄牙一啲卡乜嘢居留嘅權利都冇嘅時候咧，你就即係可能會等1年半嘅喎。咁所以咧佢就話一定要有第3張卡。Okay. So, and if someone said option A, you can continuously living here, why would you choose option B?
But it's option. People choose what they want to do.
Your choices, yeah.
It's the people's choice. They say, I want to continue to renew my card for every 2 years. It's an option of their own. If they don't want to do anything, they just quit. If they want to say, I want to apply, my goal is apply for citizenship, my advice is that they renew the card and when at the same time apply for the citizenship. Or for some reason, people say, I don't want to come back for the next 5 years. What I do? Can I stay leaving because I heard about the permanent card. Yes, you can option see that it's applying for the permanent card. It's option of the people.
每個人都有唔同嘅
You
選
have
擇。
few ways to choose. First is the not natural consequence of holding the golden visa resident card. Renew. The second is renew and apply for the citizenship. The third is apply for a permanent card.